The most dangerous predator in the world is not a lion or a shark, but the untamed thoughts inside, your own head that steal your future while you sleep with your eyes wide open. In a small town, there lived a young man named John who was very smart and had enough potential to do anything he wanted in this life because his mind was quick and his dreams were big. He wanted to become a doctor more than anything else, and for a long time his goal was clear and his path seemed easy. But John had one massive problem that acted like a poison in his system because he could not control his own mind. His mind was always restless like a leaf in a storm, and every time he sat down to study, his thoughts would start to wander toward his phone or social media or deep into useless daydreams. He would tell himself that there was still plenty of time and that he would study later, but that later never really arrived for him because his focus was scattered. His parents and teachers told him how important it was to study with full focus, but John was arrogant in his intelligence and believed that being smart was enough to succeed without needing anything else. One day, the results of the school scholarship exam came out, and John had hoped in his heart that this would make his path to becoming a doctor easier. But when he saw the result, his heart broke into a million pieces because he had failed completely while his friends who studied regularly did very well. The same teachers who once praised him now looked at him with nothing but disappointment. And John sat alone that evening, feeling deeply ashamed. He realized in that moment of darkness that being smart is never enough because without discipline, no success will ever come to a person. John decided he had to change himself and looked for a teacher who could help him build discipline, so he found Coach Miller, an experienced physical education teacher. People said that even the most unfocused boys would become disciplined under the guidance of Coach Miller because he understood the inner workings of the human spirit. John went to him and admitted that his mind kept jumping from one thing to another like a restless animal. Coach Miller smiled gently and told him that controlling the mind is the hardest task of all, but he took John to the school playground. He brought out a toy bow and arrow and set up a target board in the middle of the field while the wind blew softly around them. He told John to hit the center of the board to prove how focused he really was, but when John shot the arrow, it missed the target by a wide margin. Coach asked him what he was looking at when he shot the arrow, and John said he was looking at the trees and the field and the board all at once. Coach Miller shook his head and explained that this was the real problem because he was looking at everything at the same time. He told John that a good athlete only looks at the target and nothing else, because if you want to succeed in life, you must only look at your goal during your time of work. He explained that the eagle does not look at the entire forest when it hunts, but it focuses its entire vision on a single target until it achieves its mission. To further teach him the art of concentration, Coach Miller gave John a glass filled with water to the very brim and told him to walk to the edge of the village and back without spilling a single drop. John accepted the challenge and held the glass carefully as he walked through narrow and busy roads where dogs were barking and people were shouting and shopkeepers were calling out to customers. He did not look around at the distractions because his eyes stayed only on the glass and the water inside it, while people looked at him with surprise. When he returned, he had not spilled even one drop, and Coach Miller asked him if he saw the children playing or heard the noise of the streets. John said he saw nothing and heard nothing because he was only focusing on the glass, and the coach explained that this was the secret of power. When your mind stays in the present moment, there is no space for fear or confusion or extra thoughts, and that is when your mind becomes completely quiet. Coach Miller then gave John 4 simple rules to follow, which were to control your thoughts whenever they wander and make a strict routine for every day. He told him to decide when to study and when to rest so that his brain would slowly start to follow a set pattern. He told him to keep distractions like the phone and useless apps away while studying and to practice these small habits every single day because nothing happens in one day. John listened carefully and made a strict routine for himself while turning off his phone during his study hours to protect his vision. Every time his mind started to wander toward the old habits, he would remind himself that his goal was to become a doctor, and slowly his focus started to improve. After some time, he was able to study for hours without getting distracted, and he felt a new sense of peace and strength growing inside him. A few months later, he took another important exam, and this time he did not just pass, but he came in first place because of his intense discipline and focus. John knew this was not just luck or talent, but the result of his own hard work and the training of his mind. When he stood on the stage to receive his scholarship a year later, he remembered that the mind is like a wild horse. If you do not control it, then it will drag you wherever it wants, but if you train it with discipline, then it will take you exactly to your destination. Success follows those who recognize their inner potential and choose to focus like an eagle on a single target until they achieve greatness. He had learned that life is shaped by how we see ourselves and how we manage the storm within our own minds.